You again.
Yes.
What's going on?
I don't know. We're out on the trail.
Yes, we're out.
And you wanted to talk.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, actually, in reference to a video I had done not too long ago here, which was a message, an open message to, prepper groups and militia groups and things like that, which got into a lot of trouble on ScrewTube, by the way. That video has been blocked by way of age restriction. They put an age restriction marker on that video, so you can't even find it now without the link. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video if anybody wants to see it. It's one of the dirty tricks that they use to screw with you without acting like they are.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how, different groups, they have to learn to stick together because they can be easily picked apart. You think you're going to resist an overbearing, overpowering dictatorship government, and you think one day you may have to actually literally fight for your freedom, but you're easy targets. Most groups are really easy targets, and if they won't even talk to each other, because you don't have to join a group, you don't have to patch over, you don't have to, whatever, to have an alliance or to at least have some rapport with other groups or other militia, whatever. I was talking about that, but there's another point there that I needed to expand on, and that is moles. I can probably guarantee you that, especially if you have a larger group of any kind, there's a mole in that group. And it's probably connected to an agency with a 3-letter acronym, most likely beginning with either F or A. Okay? Without saying what it is, so that I don't get into more trouble. They probably have infiltrated your group if it's large enough. They probably are gathering intel, just in case, to keep America safe from all those bad people that are afraid of an overbearing government, which you should be afraid of. Every country should be afraid of government having way too much power.
Like they do right now with the pandemic?
Yeah, like they do right now. They exercised, most countries went in with that, and they exercised a lot of authority, and people sucked it up fast, and that should be a big red flag. Too many people behind being obedient, even when they don't believe it. Even when they don't believe it. I'll comply just so I don't make anyone upset. Nobody really pushed back, did they?
I was amazed with how fast and how many people just laid down.
Especially in the country, I was shocked. Older folks, country folks, just really sucking it up, walking around with 3 masks on and rubber gloves and wearing a mask in their car and wiping down shopping carts. And it's like, you grew up in a swamp, and you've been talking about not trusting the government for 75 years. Now all of a sudden you need 12 baby wipes on a shopping cart that's already been sprayed down with a disinfectant by some clerk. I don't get that. Where'd your backbone go, America? Just saying. But, back to the point. If you are in a large enough group, you probably have a mole. You probably have somebody, at least one person, probably actually in a position of authority that has infiltrated your group on behalf of a 3-letter organization of one type or another. And they're there to work against you. Even a smaller group, there's a good chance. And I look back to Fahrenheit 911. I spelled it out that way on purpose because you're not allowed to talk about that on ScrewTube either. I've gotten warnings about mentioning that event, but Fahrenheit 911, written by Michael Moore, which I am in no way, by no means, a fan of Michael Moore, but in that documentary there's a very important point that was made where they interviewed a sewing circle. I think it was a sewing circle or a quilting circle. That if anybody has seen this documentary, or if you haven't, look for the scene where they were infiltrated by a three-letter organization that begins with an F to make sure that they weren't terrorists. And it's like, it's a bunch of old ladies sewing. And you infiltrated their group, you put a spy in their group. This is like secret police kind of stuff that you see in Cold War Europe, you know, where you have these major communist slash and or socialist countries that spy on everybody all the time to make sure that they're being obedient to the government. So it's not unlikely that even a small group might have a plant. And that's something to consider. And there are some things that you could do. It would involve, quite frankly, counterintelligence or counter-surveillance. Not something I can really discuss like this, because I'm in enough trouble on ScrewTube as it is without being completely shut down or watched any more than I already am. But it's something to keep in mind.
Well, you made mention early in the film about making alliances and, you know, getting a rapport with other militias and prepper groups. Talk more on that.
Well, the idea was, and this comes from that other video, that by yourself, a small group, you're easy pickings. The only way that you could stand against is to stand together. It's like hands on a fist. You know, you have all your separate fingers, but if you had to come together, you can be a force. And a lot of these groups, they have this lone wolf mentality. I mean, most preppers have a lone wolf mentality. They don't really want to rely on anybody. The idea is to not rely on anybody, especially the government.
Well, I think, not to cut you off, but I think more, it's not so much that you don't want to rely, you can't really trust anybody. Because, and I'm going to let you finish what you were going to say, but I want you to also talk about how much do you share? You're a smaller group, 10 people, and then you want to build up a little rapport, a relationship. How much do you share in that relationship? Do you understand?
Yeah,
what
as
I'm
little
saying?
as possible, quite frankly.
Without
it's enough that they know that you're there.
And you got 10
and
people.
You can say, you know, if we have trouble, we'll call you. If you have trouble, you call us, and at least alert each other. You don't have to put on a show. And I've seen prepper groups do that. They want to show off.
Yeah.
Really, they want to show, oh yeah, we got all this, and here's our shelter, and we got this much food. Don't tell people that. You don't know who these guys are yet.
I knew a person that did that.
Yeah, we did. I talked about that person, and I warned him for all the good it did. It's like, you know, you don't know me that well. I shouldn't know where the key to your safe is.
Yeah.
And things like this. He starts bragging, and he just kept getting carried away because he had come across somebody with similar interests. And it's like, don't tell me all of that. Don't tell anybody all of that. Stop.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to come looking for you one of these days. But you don't have to tell them much at all to have a dialogue.
Yeah.
You really don't. But the reason that they need to try to come together is because individually they're very weak targets. And I used the example of the triads being rounded up in 2015. In 3 months, the Chinese government was able to make over 60,000 arrests, and that's incredibly significant. If they could do it, any country that has the manpower, the resources, the money, and the intel could do it, including the United States, including the UK, or any other big country. Canada can do it. Most of these countries can do something like that. There's a big thing to be said for air superiority in the United States. I had made the example of a show called Colony, where some of the premise is kind of far-fetched, but how they got there isn't, and how they eliminated militia and prepper groups is realistic. They basically, the government already knew their emergency codes you know, you get a call on your phone and it's some kind of code and it's like, okay, I need to go to the shelter, that kind of thing. The government already had that information because it was out there, because of moles in their organizations, because everything's on the internet. Everybody talks too much. And so they basically put out the call globally, because this is a one world government kind of a show, to all these groups, and all these groups went to their emergency meeting spots all at once, and all those spots were taken out at the same time with drone strikes. That is something that is technically possible. That is something that's technically possible. So there's a lot to consider there, but more to the point of what I was talking about today is, yes, you do need to be aware of the fact that there could very well be a plant in your organization, especially if your organization is large enough. It's something to really consider, something to really think about, something to watch out for. And throwing that person out is a loss of an asset. And the reason I say that is, if you found out somebody's a mole and you boot them, then they'll just get replaced. If you found out someone's a mole and you keep them on a string, it's a lot more valuable. And anything more than that, I probably can't say. Probably can't say in this format.
Okay, anything else you want to add?
Well, what more can I say but stay frosty, folks, and thanks for watching.